Sujewa, we are talking Candemonium today. Yes, we are going to be talking about Woody Allen's 1980 film Stardust Memories. But before we get to any of that, there's been a lot of news and scuttlebutt out of the Cannes Film Festival, which is going on right now. And I want to talk about some of it. You brought a lot of this to light because I've got a billion things going on right now that my head is in other places than the movies. And you've thankfully brought me back into La La Land, so to speak. So I'm excited to dig into some of the scandal and the wonderful films that we have to look forward to coming stateside soon. But before that, how you doing?
Awesome, getting things done. I had kind of a rough few weeks getting things organized to meet some deadlines. Got it done Wednesday by midday Wednesday. Then ever since then, it's amazing how when a major deadline passes, the entire system was like, all right, we're not going to think, at 100% anymore. We're going to switch to thinking at like 25%, and you get lazy. You kind of start resting. So I kind of had a since Wednesday afternoon, like a 4-day weekend or so, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So just today, I was feeling much more motivated about getting back to work on all the projects. But it was a major deadline that had to be met on Wednesday, and I took care of it. So it was not easy.
Well, and you use the word lazy. If what you described is the case, and I have no reason to doubt it is, it's not, I don't think, laziness. I think it's the natural cycle of like you burn so hard to get something done
Yeah,
that you can't keep going like that, else you're going to burn out. So your body and your mind just takes time to recover. And naturally, we're creative people. So you're like, okay, after a few days, it's time to get back on the horse. And you got that trophy, that success of having conquered one thing, and you can move on to the next thing.
yeah. Also, it was a major financial deadline that would affect rent and all that for a number of months. And luckily, I was able to hit it. If not, it would have been crazy amounts of stress, as some people we know are going through now. So
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the deadline and that big old,
fundraising
yeah, the pile of money that you can now throw at real world problems, housing and
already
food.
gone, but
Yeah.
it kept but it bought me lots of time to deal with other issues in the coming months. But it was essential. So yeah, I mean, and as we were talking earlier, this is the life of a indie filmmaker. We're constantly fundraising. Actually, this might be the life of all filmmakers because even if you're funded by studios, there's lots of hoops to jump through to keep the cash flowing.
Well, speaking of
Yeah.
filmmakers, I mean, one of the ways that they make money is by getting their movies out in front of people so they can see them. And
Hmm.
before they get in front of large people, they typically debut at film festivals.
Hmm.
Probably one of the most famous of which is the Cannes Film Festival in France. And a filmmaker that we've talked about a few times on this show, Jim Jarmusch, had a film called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. I have no idea what it's about. I just know that there was a big controversy last month. I think it first came to light that Ken was not going to show this movie, and I don't know what the details are. If they've said why they weren't going to show it, there was some rumor, I guess, recently that maybe they would because they didn't want it to pop up at Venice and make a splash there or something. Tell me what's going on with this thing?
I've looked into it as much as possible through what's available. Um, I'm going to make some notes in case something needs to be written down about today's episode to come back to later. So yeah, Jarmusch has a new movie out called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. Several stories about a family that takes place in various parts of the world. I saw some making of stills and I saw some stills from the movie. They thought, Team Jarmusch thought it would be at Cannes. Then Cannes decided to not take the movie, and then there was some talk that they're reconsidering their decision and they're trying to get the movie back. The festival is happening now, and it's not over yet, so there's a slim possibility that it could show up at Cannes, but this is unusual because in 2019, Jarmusch's movie *The Dead Don't Die* opened the festival. However, they didn't let it compete for the main prize or the prizes, so it was just a sidebar thing that opened the festival. So Jarmusch became world famous with the help of the Cannes Film Festival, and throughout the years, he's been there many times with movies. So it's kind of surprising that his new movie was not accepted. Um, yeah, it's kind of shocking to some people because when you think of Jarmusch, you kind of equate him with Cannes Film Festival or similar world, top tier world film festivals.
And additionally, the way you describe the film about being a kind of a family story that takes place in different parts of the world. I mean, I'm getting Night on Earth vibes. Instead
Mhm.
of taxi drivers, it's family members. Um, I don't know. This is pure speculation, but could it be that the stink of The Dead Don't Die carry? And that's not a pun because it's a zombie movie, but could that have carried over to? Well, no, because he had what, Patterson
Mhm.
in between then, and he's had other films, I think. So this is truly a mystery to me, and I can't find anything looking online as to people talking like, oh, the Cannes people watched it and it was a stinker, or there's some kind of like filmmaker political drama going on, or what. It's a weird one.
Yeah, one thing I can imagine is, and there wouldn't be a lot of information about this because this is all, still being decided very inside. And this is a brief glimpse into how the entire film world works at the studio level in the US and also the international film festivals. A few people decide what comes out where, and no one really wants to talk about it because they don't want to upset the few people who decide right what comes out where for their next movie. But Jarmusch is a very talented, much lauded filmmaker, New York filmmaker, maybe the founder of modern filmmaking in a sense with Stranger Than Paradise. So I'm shocked that his movie was not shown. Some possibilities may be that, well, I can't think of a good reason not to show his movie, even if it is completely, unlike one of his movies, quote unquote, not as good. Um, Film festivals like Cannes are not there to determine what may do well at box office and what may not do well at box office, what may be, quality wise or filmmaking tech wise, good or bad, but to introduce amazing new works, good or bad. They played Megalopolis last year
Hmm.
at Cannes, right? And that's a similar kind of situation. A well-known filmmaker, questionable product, and everyone saw the movie, and no one seriously thought it was a good movie in a traditional sense, right? Yet they played at Cannes, and
I thought it was a great movie in a non-traditional sense, and I'm excited because they announced that there's a documentary about the making of it that's going to be coming out. So I cannot wait to watch that one.
yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I mean, it's its own very unique, bizarre movie, and yeah, I'll check out the documentary also. So. Um, I don't think it's due to a quality issue. Um, it could be that there's only a finite number of movies they can show and promote properly. So maybe they decided to go with new filmmakers dealing with certain subjects, people who are not as well established. Um, you know, that could have done it. Or the slots are taken up. The studios have some say. They put a lot of money into Con in many cases, so maybe some other movie needed the exposure. I'm not sure. Uh, Surprising situation. Hopefully, it'll get resolved. I mean, the movie will come out. The distributor has signed on for it. They already have a web page for it, so it'll come out either way. But maybe it'll come out at Con. Let's see. If not, it'll be at another major festival, most likely because it's Jarmusch and it has a lot of major stars in it.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if it doesn't show at Cannes, which if it doesn't show at Cannes, that just strikes me as even strange. Or if it does, it strikes me as bizarre because you think of a film festival, like it's not like a pop-up situation necessarily. Like, oh, we're going to show this movie today. You
Right,
got to make all these arrangements and
right.
advertise it and figure out the theater and the times and all that. But I feel like if it doesn't play at Cannes, it gives it whether a movie is, good or not, it gives it kind of this mystique, this cachet, like the film that they wouldn't show at the Cannes Film Festival. What's that all about? But
Well,
as far as what you had said, regarding commercialism and all this other stuff, it strikes me as weird that they're not gonna play the new Jarmusch, but I don't know if this opened the festival, but it was definitely one of the big hitters was Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning with Tom
lots of money,
Cruise.
lots of money involved.
Yeah.
Whenever they do Hollywood movies like that, there's a lot of money. The festival's getting a lot of money, which the festival needs to keep going, right? So every festival does it, and no one really talks about it. But it could be a situation like that. Maybe some other movie that's being released by a major studio needed the slot that was going to go to Jarmusch.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I understand there's that balance between art and commerce, right? If you can't afford a festival, then no one gets to show their movies,
Right,
at the festival, but it to me, it sort of taints the brand of
right,
Cannes. It's like, this is supposed to be, the creme de la creme. This is where all the important, new movies we're all gonna be talking about this year debut and
right.
start the global conversation. No one is concerned about Mission Impossible 8 or
Right.
9 or whatever it is,
That,
getting out
that
there
movie will
because
be fine.
yeah, there've been posters and trailers for it for months, but
I
no
feel
one's
like I've already seen it.
I have seen it, and I can tell you that I'd be very curious. I'm even more curious now to see Jarmusch's latest because it has to be better than that.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, one thing about auteur filmmaking is it's kind of predictable. We know a Jarmusch movie or an Olivier Assayas movie or a Wes Anderson movie just by seeing a little bit of it. So I seriously doubt this Jarmusch movie is that different from all the other Jarmusch movies. And I mean, maybe it is, but I seriously doubt it because from what I've heard, it's very much a traditional Jarmusch movie. Um,
Well, I mean, that would be nice because, like, one of my issues with The Dead Don't Die is that was definitely more on the commercial side of things. It had a
right,
big, like, marketing campaign, everything. So that to me felt very different from other Jarmusch that I'd seen. I haven't seen all of his work, of course, but if this new, father, mother, sister, brother, whatever, is a return to form, I really can't wait to see it. Now, speaking of another filmmaker who has, sort of a distinct style and certainly an indie reputation, um, Richard Linklater's, Nouvelle Vague. I dance between 2 pronunciations. It's vague or vague.
yeah, in my
The
head I say WOG, but a lot of the articles are using the English translation, which is New Wave, and
right.
we can call it New Wave.
We'll call it new wave, yeah, so I won't further embarrass myself, especially because I took 4 years of French in high school.
Yeah,
But,
your teachers will be upset. On Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's titled Nouvelle WOG 2025, but by the time it opens in the US, that might get the main title may become New Wave.
it'll be just like the Thunderbolts becoming new Avengers.
That's right.
Um, but, heaven forbid. No, but I saw this trailer today because I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know
Probably
what it
for me.
well, no, I mean, I'd heard that Linklater was at Cannes with something, and then I know you had said, "Let's talk about his Godard movie." I'm like, "The Godard movie?" And then I looked up the trailer, and I think it was described as a movie about the making of Godard's Breathless,
Yeah,
in style of Godard's Breathless.
yeah.
Hooked, sold, take my money. But I looked at this trailer, it's in gorgeous black and white.
Right.
I only recognized one of the actors in it, Zoe Deutsch, who, I like a lot. I actually, interviewed her for the podcast, or actually, no, it was, for the website a few years
Awesome.
ago. Um, but I don't recognize much of the rest of the cast. The lead that they got to play the male character in Breathless, it looks like an AI generated version of that actor, 50 years on. It's uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we reviewed or we discussed Breathless earlier, and I think both of us liked it a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was a super film nerd, film critics, filmmakers project. The making of Breathless as a movie. And this is something that filmmakers, think about, oh, that would be fun to do, like the making of Star Wars or making of anything, right? But it's so much work to make a movie. No one really follows through on stuff like this. But Linklater followed through, so he's getting great responses. I read most reviews. There's like 19 reviews now. I think 17 of them are positive on Rotten Tomatoes. It had 100% critic score until earlier today. And yeah, I read most of the reviews and reactions. I saw the trailer. Obviously, I've seen Breathless several times. I've seen pretty much all Linklater movies. So we can talk about the new movie. It looks very interesting.
Yeah, and I was kind of blown away by it because just watching the trailer, it's subtle because it looks almost like he's just recreating Breathless. And then
Mhm.
you realize there are these kinds of hints that, oh, he's actually making a movie about the making of it. But it doesn't have it's really kind of hard to pinpoint what exactly he's doing, partially because I haven't seen it. But there have been tons of, Hollywood movies about making movies. There are all these interpersonal character dramas and stuff, and they kind of show the making of, a few scenes from the films they've recreated. It looks like the balance here is tipped towards recreating the movie, and the making of stuff is kind of in the periphery, which I hope that's true. I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah, from the reviews I read, looks like they go from the start of the project to the end of the project, and they show lots of background information, other filmmakers at the time that Godard knew doing their own projects, including Bresson filming Pickpocket, I believe, at a Paris Metro, Paris subway. So that's going to be amazing. It's going to be like just being, you know, in France in 1958 or so when the movie was made, and just thinking of Linklater style from Before Sunrise, from Slacker, from Dazed and Confused. So it's just going to be like the best hangout movie situation for film fans and film critics. I'm sure some regular people will hate it, or people who have no idea and no relationship to Breathless or Godard will hate it. But my one of my jokes since I heard about this movie is this is a movie made for an audience of one. Richard Brody, the New Yorker critic, because he's a big fan of American indie. I don't know if he's a big fan of Linklater, maybe. Also, he's a big fan of Godard. He wrote the book Everything is Cinema about Godard. So when they were making this movie, they're like, if Richard Brody goes to see this a million times, we're gonna make a profit.
Yeah, it's again, I saw one trailer. I don't know much more about it, but being a fan of what I've seen of Godard, mostly Farewell to Language, I still
He's made
anyway,
like 200 projects, so there's
yeah.
gonna be like 50 that no one cares about.
Right, but what I think it would be great because Richard Linklater, you're right,
Goodbye,
he
Boy.
does he has a lot of indie cachet,
Right.
but I feel like the Before movies and Dazed and Confused, a few of his movies have kind of penetrated the general
Yeah,
popular culture
yeah,
enough that I think it'd be awesome if people went to go see this quirky new movie and just fell in love with it and discovered, oh, this is based on the making of an actual film, and maybe a new generation of Godard fans are born. I'm hopeful.
yeah. This is like the third major, no, the second major cinematic revisit of Godard's Breathless, because the Breathless was remade in the 80s in
With
America
Richard Gere, right?
with Richard Gere, yeah.
Yeah.
And now in 2025, 2024, Linklater has made it kind of remade it as a making of movie. So that's going to be very interesting. I think this is a movie you should watch at the movie theater. I
Oh,
could
yeah.
see it. I could see it feeling like a YouTube historical documentary if you watch it at home. But at a movie theater with the black and white cinematography, large screen where you're part of the action with other people, I think it'll be a great movie to watch. So we'll have to watch it and do a review discussion after it comes out. I think this fall maybe it's coming out.
It feels like it in the best way. It feels like it's kind of award season bait. So
Hmm.
we'll see. I'm hoping that if it, if it gets a mainstream release, awesome. But if it just plays art house theaters, I think theater owners would do themselves a big favor by doing a double bill of this movie, New Wave with Breathless, just
Great idea.
back to back. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Now, kind of wrapping up our discussion of Cannes, in a couple weeks, folks can look forward to a discussion that we're going to have with our recurring guest and friend of the show and friend, Raphael Sabarge, who
Famous
is,
actor.
yes, famous actor who is at Cannes right now with 2 movies
That's right.
that he's in. I'm sure he'll be able to tell us all about that. But we're going to be talking about Friendship,
Hmm.
the new A24 comedy. It's in limited release when folks are watching this right now, but it's going to be nationwide by the time we talk to Raphael. So we're going to get into kind of the making of the film, his involvement in it, the rise of A24 as a indie studio to kind of like this name brand boutique thing that really means something in the industry now. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's wild. How did we connect with someone who's at con? We're doing lots of super indie stuff, but you cover some mainstream stuff, so I'm surprised. I know someone who's at con.
Well, it's we have a mutual friend in Conman.
That's
That
right.
was that was terrible. I'm sorry. Okay.
But yeah, about Raphael, he has a feature called he's in a feature called The History of Sound, and there's a short movie. Do you know the title of the short?
I don't offhand. I ran out of time to look it up beforehand, so I'll
Yeah,
have to rely on him to tell me.
there's a short that's playing at con also that he's in. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing discussion. I look forward to finding out about his experiences at con and also about the movies and also discussing Friendship. I'm about to go watch Friendship on Tuesday at BAM, which is the Brooklyn Academy of Music. Very nice theater here in Brooklyn.
Well, I hope they have very tall seats because I have seen Friendship. I saw it at a press screening last week, and there were numerous times when I wanted to jump underneath the seat. I was that uncomfortable. It was so
Friendship,
cringeworthy, but it was great. I mean,
right?
I'm looking forward to talking about it. So have fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we're getting a lot of cinema, good cinema, both at the movie theaters and I know you're not into it, but if you ever get a chance to check out, or people out there, check out the Andor season 2. Very cinematic.
I've heard it's very I think it's the most expensive Star Wars thing ever in terms of like spending money per hour or something, and it's
Yeah,
all up on screen from what I can tell.
yeah, and it's unlike regular Star Wars. It's like a realistic war movie, spy movie, rebellion movie, mixed in with elements of Star Wars, and everyone is dark. It's like maybe a French Resistance type movie. Even the good guys are killing people. Bad guys are obviously doing horrible things, and everyone exists in a gray zone. There's no magic. There's the Force out of like 12 hours, roughly 12 hours of you know story time on season 2. The Force was discussed maybe 10 minutes, and we don't see any Jedi's. We see a Force healer who's not even a Jedi, but someone who believes in the Force and using the Force to heal people. So we saw that as far as magic, Star Wars magic goes. But otherwise, very much very different type of Star Wars story, and very popular with a lot of people.
Yes, I would say a lot of people. I don't know about most people and Star Wars fans. I mean, honestly, all the things that you just described to me is one of the reasons I've avoided watching it, because
And
I
as
like
a filmmaker, you should expose yourself to it as a film critic.
right. However, it's 12 episodes this season, and I think what 8, 10 last season. I'm not going
Maybe
to be
not
doing.
last season, but just to get a taste of it, watch a couple episodes. So as a film critic, you can be like, oh, that's
No, I mean, I watched,
yeah.
I think I got like a half hour through the first episode when it came out. I'm like, this is interesting. It's not grabbing me, and it certainly doesn't feel like Star Wars. And for all the reasons that you described to me, like there's no Jedi, they barely talk about the Force. There's there's everyone's shades of gray. There's no good and bad. I get the need or the desire for a franchise and a story to evolve,
Mhm,
but I think at a certain point you evolve it so much that it no longer even has the DNA of the thing that it once was or that it evolved from.
mhm,
And so saying you've got this dark intergalactic spy thriller where everyone's kind of fucked up and screwing each other over and there's violence and all this other stuff, that's awesome.
mhm.
Just don't call it Star Wars. If
No,
it
well,
did something else, maybe I'd be interested, but I'm just like, I'm tired of everything being like reappropriated and changed to
mhm.
like I want to tell this story. I'm like, great, then don't put on the skin of something that's been a beloved series for, almost 50 years.
That's not how this one turns out. I mean, even in the original Star Wars, there's a lot of weird stuff that's not explained that they don't have the time to go into just because of the pace, the slavery, right? Killing of children, stuff like that is in the original Star Wars, original
Yeah.
Star Wars movies. Over here, if the temple murder were to done in Andor, that would be an entire episode, and there would be debates about, you know, is this should we do this, and then there would be we would show in some we would see in some detail the repercussions of what was done and what it means. So
Right, and I get that,
yeah,
but I don't consider that to be Star Wars. Like,
well,
and George Lucas, when he conceived of and, owned this thing,
right,
it was supposed to be a throwback to, like, the serial adventures of his youth, and there were dark moments in that. I mean, Princess Leia gets tortured by a droid with a needle, right? But the whole spirit of it was adventure, fun, darkness, serialized kind of adventure, and I get that people, especially now that it's owned by Disney, they can give it to whoever they want and they can do whatever they want. I'm
mhm.
just not in a hurry to watch it because when you say, "Oh, we could spend an entire episode debating like the merits of child murder," I don't need that in my life, and I don't need it cloaked as Star Wars.
No, also it's good filmmaking, good acting. So at some point when you see some episodes, especially the middle segments of each season, they're not super fast. So what they do in season two is Rogue One. Did you see Rogue One?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's like Rogue One basically. It's like two seasons of Rogue One.
right, and I don't need that. I mean, I this thing I liked Rogue One, and I liked the filmmaker. I thought it was an interesting diversion,
Hmm.
and I think I appreciated it at the time because it was Star Wars, but it was a little bit different. But what we've had in the almost 10 years since it came out is creators saying, okay, we're going to go really different and really different and really different. So the point where it's like the Xerox of the Xerox, the Xerox, you're getting further and further away from what I even recognize as Star Wars. So when you say, hey, wouldn't it be cool to watch 20 hours of Andor or 20 hours of Rogue One as a prequel? I'm like, no, that doesn't sound interesting at all. Aside from perhaps the aesthetics, maybe the drama, but I'm saying when I retire,
Hmm.
I may watch Andor and
Yeah, yeah,
maybe I'll
yeah.
have a
I mean,
completely a different opinion.
you'll probably end up liking it because it follows these characters that we've never really seen fully fleshed out in the Star Wars universe. I mean, this might sound bad, but it's interesting, including Imperials who grew up in the system and believe in the system, in the Imperial system, and they can't imagine why anyone would want to rebel against it.
Yeah, and I've seen
Who
that
are
in a
sincere believers in the whole Imperial project.
right. I've seen that in other movies and TV series that have nothing to do with Star Wars. I look, I know I'm the curmudgeon shouting at the sky about something I haven't seen, so we can move on.
Sure.
But when you're just talking like why haven't I watched Andor, it's because I have no interest in it,
Right, 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 right.
and the franchise has not done significant. I think not that I have to do outreach to me, but the show has been sold and packaged using the language that you have used to describe it to me and to sell it to me, and it's not, grabbing me. You could tell me like, hey, I know you're about to bite into that, tender, juicy Wagyu beef, steak, but I've got this amazing cricket burger that you should try instead. I'm like, no, maybe come back next week.
Yeah, no, but Andor is more like the beef, and the original Star Wars is more like the cricket burger.
Okay, now we're getting to blasphemous territory, so we're just going to move on to Stardust Memories.
Sure.
Hey, they both have star in them. Star
Right,
Wars and
and
Stardust Memories.
Stardust Memories is about filmmaking, which is very much what Nouvelle Vague or New Wave is about, and or a little bit is about filmmaking, but yeah, Stardust Memories. Go ahead, say what you were going to say.
It's Woody Allen.
You've seen it, right?
Yeah, I watched it this morning, actually.
What did you think?
I loved it, and
Cool.
we've been talking about a lot of movies and ideas
That's
for
the
the
first
last.
time you saw it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we've been talking about a lot of movies and ideas and stuff for the last 40 minutes. I feel like to fully unpack Stardust Memories, we could do that in like 3 hours because
Nice.
there's so much going on here
Nice.
that I loved it. I took copious notes.
Oh, good. Let's bring them up.
I don't know if I'm going to bring them up because I'm going to do that thing where I spend like a bad comedian standing on stage looking at my notebook.
Right.
So I'll try and refer back to it subtly.
Let me see if I can bring up my Stardust notes.
But essentially,
I remember a lot of things.
yeah, I mean, Woody Allen stars as Sandy Bates, who is a contemporary to 1980. He's a filmmaker. He's basically Woody Allen, who had a string of very successful movies. I think one he might have even won an Oscar for one, if I remember that in the dialogue. But he's kind of going through a midlife crisis, a career crisis, a relationship crisis. There is an ex of his named Dory, who is an actress played by Charlotte Rampling, who that is the biggest revelation for me in a movie full of revelations that have nothing to do with how the film would have been viewed at the time, because we're talking about something that's now 45 years old.
She's in New Wave.
She is.
Yeah. Oh, let me think. No. She's in the new Jarmusch movie.
Oh, okay. Oh, very good. See, it all connects. But no, I mean, but I think the last thing I saw her in was Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, right? She played the Bene Gesserit mother. But I've always known her as an older actress. So to see her as like a 35-year-old actress in this Woody Allen movie, she is stunning.
Yeah.
She, like, her cheekbones are like they belong in like I don't know. They need to be bronzed and put up in the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. They're amazing. And she looks like the contemporary actress Mackenzie Davis.
And she looks 10 times hotter next to Woody Allen.
Well, I mean, that's the case with all of his co-stars, really, in any movie. But so Sandy Bates he's constantly flooded by insecurities because he's a Woody Allen stand-in. And he decides to take a gig at the Stardust Hotel, which is showing a retrospective of his movies. And while he's there for this weekend, he can't stop thinking about Dory. He encounters another hot young thing named Daisy, played by Jessica Harper, who folks might recognize from Suspiria from a few years earlier, Dario Argento's Suspiria. And then there's this.
Everyone's acting was very realistic and good in Stardust Memories.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Including the Daisy character.
Yes. And then there is Isabel, who's the third kind of female lead in here, who is actually Sandy's another ex, kind of estranged. She's a French, I can't remember. Was she an actress as well? All I know is that she left. She's got 2 young kids, and she left her husband.
Yeah, Isabel with the kids. I think, I don't know if she's an actress.
I don't know what she is, but she's left her husband with, and she brought the 2 kids out to this hotel to be with Sandy, and Sandy doesn't kind of know what to do with that information. So all of this stuff is coming crashing down around him, and amidst this crisis, or as part of it, it's all shot in black and white. It's very surreal, and he keeps having these memories of his childhood and his past encounters with his exes, but they're not shown in flashbacks as we know them. They're shown as things that he is observing that meld into the contemporary reality of the life that he's living. It's I think about Joss Whedon, the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He did a dream episode in the like early 2000s of that show, which up until watching Stardust Memories, I thought was the most accurate depiction of what it's like to be in a dream, where you could be having a conversation with someone and walking through a room, and all of a sudden you're going from the room into the Grand Canyon, and then you're talking to somebody else, and then you become a whale or something like that. This movie, I think, does a masterful job, in addition to being very funny and very sharp in that Woody Allen witty way, of capturing that surrealism of the dream quality that people have when they're awake. You know, you get lost in thought, you start kind of daydreaming, and things get a little bit weird until someone snaps you back in the reality, like, hey, where were you? Come back to me. So that's, yeah, I appreciate so much about this movie, but I'm going to stop rambling. Sujewa, tell me about your experience with Stardust Memories. When did you first see it? How many times have you seen it?
I've seen it a couple of times, and I rewatched it recently. Some items we have to touch on. 8.5 by Fellini was inspiration for the movie. That dream, the viewing, the weaving together of not viewing, the maybe viewing also, of reality, fantasy, memories, kind of reminded me of Inception a little bit, the Nolan movie.
Yeah.
And also, Hong Sang-soo does a little bit of that in some of his movies, where you don't know. I don't know if you've seen those movies, but he would show something which is in another dimension, maybe a memory, maybe a fantasy, and but it's shot and presented in the same way as the rest of the movie, right? So you have to guess about it later. Uh, but that kind of thing is done in a very entertaining and sharp way in Stardust Memories. Um, Thought the acting was really good. I thought for a movie about filmmaking, it's very entertaining. I think regular people could watch it and have a good time with it. I thought it touches on some of the controversial issues of Woody Allen's life, the family, the family dramas,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and so he's playing with fire there. But this was in 1980 when the movie came out, so I don't know how much he was being accused of back then. Probably hardly anything compared to now. But yeah, it shows Woody Allen's pretty strong filmmaking skills, and in a way, I think of Stardust Memories as if Hong Sang-soo had a bigger budget and 6 months to make each movie, he might end up with something like that.
Well, it's strange because we're looking back on something for, almost a half century in the past,
Hmm.
and hindsight is an incredible thing. You mentioned it to me, it was shocking. There are a couple of shocking moments in this movie that I don't think, to your point, would have registered in 1980.
Hmm.
At one point, I think it was Isabel comes in accusing Sandy of making eyes at, or no, maybe it was Dory,
It was
of
Dory,
making eyes at a 13 or a 14-year-old girl at a
right?
restaurant they were at. It's like it was her niece or cousin or something like that. Dory's younger cousin, much younger cousin.
Right.
And he was like, I was just, making conversation. We were at the table. And she's like, you were flirting with that girl and you're disgusting. I'm like, it reminded me of a similar kind of movie called I Love You, Daddy, which was done by Louis C.K.
Right.
that came out in 2016. It was like right at the time of Me Too, and it was instantly canceled, or
Hmm.
not instantly. It played a couple of festivals, got some rave reviews, but then it was pulled when he had his kind of issues. But
Hmm.
Chloe Grace Moretz plays, I think, his daughter in that movie, and she's being romanticized and sexualized by an older, I think, a director or something like that. Again, and Woody Allen and Louis C.K. have been spoken about in very similar terms. So, and but those were 40 years apart. I don't know what's going on psychically or cinematically here, but these films are kind of a piece, and it reminds me, or it puts to mind, are these confessions? Are they cries for help? Are they just like, well, they say write what you know? I don't know what's going on
Or it
here.
could be, I mean, Woody Allen, as his defenders say, he was not convicted of anything, and there's been no other people coming out accusing him of assaulting children, except in the real world. We have the one case with his current wife. Most likely, he started that relationship while she was officially a minor, right?
Right.
Um, so we have that situation. So
Yeah, and
one thing,
there's nothing in the film about him actually assaulting anybody or whatever. It's just that his ex-girlfriend,
right?
who is
Exactly.
painted as having a lot of insecurities about youth and appearance and attractiveness, and physical and also personality attractiveness. It could just have been like this weird misplaced jealousy of someone who is much younger.
Mhm.
And reading into that conversation, it's not, they don't dive into it. And again, it's one of those things where in 1980 I could see watching this movie and be like, well, that's kind of a weird diversion. But now, with decades of stories and these court cases and allegations and stuff, it really makes you pull over and say, is there some kind of subtext going on here? Or is, again, Woody Allen is the creator saying, I'm wrestling with this
Well,
as a man.
yeah, as I was about to say earlier, it could be a case where he's using what is being said about him, either privately or in the media, inside his artwork, as a way of dealing with it, or acknowledging that he hears these things. A lot of filmmakers do this, that kind of thing. So yeah, it just could have been something that's on his mind when he was writing the script.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because a lot of the stuff that
Well, because
he
his current wife's adopted mother that he was dating in 1980, I believe, that he was in that relationship. Maybe this is something that happened in real life. Maybe he was accused by who's the actress that we're talking about? Anyway, you know who it is. Not Diane Keaton.
oh, Mia Farrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Mia Farrow accused him of looking at or flirting with some young people and young girls, and maybe that's what's being placed on the screen.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things because there are people in, light of the Woody Allen stories in the past decades who have disavowed him. They won't watch his movies, which I think is kind of a shame. I understand the impulse, but especially with a movie like Stardust Memories, it is so sharp and so not only very funny, because it's like almost every other line for a good portion of this movie is some kind of a one-liner. It reminds me very much of his stand-up from the late 60s. But it's also incisive as to what I imagine the life of a famous filmmaker is.
Mhm.
It's not just the romance of like, oh, I get to make movies and be on cool locations with beautiful looking people. It's everybody's after you to make decisions about, about the film, about the release of the film. This college wants you to come talk. This cause wants you to throw your lot in with them to help raise money. There's
A
a
lot
great
of
line.
comedy, a lot of
Hmm?
comedy in those discussions.
Right, and there's one person who's approaches him during one of these, gaggles of press people, and says, "I'm doing a piece on the shallow indifference of wealthy celebrities, and I'd like to include you."
And like every 5 minutes, someone comes up and says, "What about the suffering of the Jews here and there and there? What are you doing about it?" And I thought one of the funniest scenes was when he was at. It's so funny when he's at his sister's, and the sister's husband is on the bike, and he's riding the bike and ringing the bell, ringing the bell nonstop like a crazy person, while Allen's character and his sister character are talking about him, who the husband and the bike who's right across
Well, right,
across
because
the room. It was hilarious.
and he says, 'cause he's on this bike, he says, I had 2 heart attacks before I got the bike." And then Sandy says, "And since then?" And the guy says, "I also had 2."
That's right. One segment that I thought was not done as cleverly was when Dory is addressing the camera. Maybe she's at an institution and she's just talking about, and she's just kind of out of it. I don't, that segment seemed tonally very different from rest of the movie and seemed very serious. Um, so yeah, other than that, I thought the movie was very interesting, and also I thought the movie was so Woody Allen and so from that time period. It's like a slice of history that if you were to make a movie in 2025 about a director having the same problems, it would not feel at all like it would not look or feel at all like that movie.
I kind of disagree because something that I mean, of course, you've got the wardrobe and the kind of the mannerisms of people 50 years ago, but
Mhm.
different than they are now. But what do we have today? We've got filmmakers, celebrities who are constantly being hounded by the press and by their fans to make a statement about this, support this, endorse this. It was kind of a revelation to me to
I mean, a
see.
version of that using today's stuff could be done. I'm saying that the movie was so from that time period that it would be very difficult to remake that unless someone had the mission of real just remaking Stardust Memories.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't like that idea because I think this movie is perfect, and I
Right.
think it's weird because it does feel like something that you could almost just re-release today. Because
Right.
aside from the ubiquity of, instead of like flash bulbs and steno pads,
Yeah.
everyone would have like iPhones.
People will get
But
it.
yeah, it feels very contemporary. Um,
And in a way, it's like New Wave, the Linklater movie. It's in black and white, and it's about filmmaking. So someone could show the two movies together, and New Wave was about filmmaking in the late 1950s, and Stardust Memories could be about filmmaking about in the late 1970s.
and also they're both inspired by, inspired by or about great European filmmakers. So
Hmm.
you've got that kind of sensibility of it. You've got these wonderful close-ups of Alan, and even though he's not the the most photogenic person, he looks amazing all throughout this movie. It's one of the things that really struck me, and this is why I think I started off when we were talking about it. It's something that would not have mattered to anybody in 1980, but 45 years on is quite remarkable, is just the cast.
Hmm.
Not the main cast, but the supporting actors and the background characters. There's an opening scene that is wonderful of Sandy. He's on a train. There's these beautiful, almost grotesque long faces. I mean, they're not enhanced by makeup. They're just, he found the most interesting looking miserable people
Hmm.
to photograph on this train, and he looks across and he sees a train on the other tracks, and it's full of these champagne sipping, well-to-do, beautiful people. And one of those beautiful people is Sharon Stone.
Right.
You've got Celia Weston, the great character actress. She shows up literally as a background performer in one of the scenes. Daniel Stern, there, as I mentioned, Jessica Harper, who had only been, in a couple of things. But this movie is just like you can look at the, all through the background, and even some of the people just have like one line, like, "Oh, that I can't believe it's that person." There was Daisy's boyfriend Jack.
Hmm.
I don't remember the actor's name, but he 4 years later he was the librarian in Ghostbusters from the opening of that movie.
And I saw a couple of actors who later on became very famous for other kinds of movies. But yeah, small community of actors in American film that end up in various movies. One interesting aspect of the movie that's relevant to right now is Woody Allen's character is dealing with the problem. Why spend time on movies or movie making when all these super serious problems are going on? He has a he has a large image from Vietnam of a Vietnamese collaborator getting shot by South Vietnamese official. That's a famous image from the Vietnam War. So that kind of thing is going on now, right? We have, thousands of people getting killed in Palestine. We have a war that broke out in India and between India and Pakistan, 3-year-long war, a Russian invasion of Ukraine. While all that's going on, why make art? Why put time into movies or discussing movies or making movies? So in the end, through the scene involving the space aliens, they tell him, "Yeah, do what you're good at. That's the best way to serve humanity."
Right, and that's there are space aliens in this movie,
Right?
which is, phenomenal,
Best space alien scene.
well, Sandy and Daisy are driving, and their chauffeur gets pulled over and arrested by the police for mail fraud, and so they're stranded, and they walk to the nearest town, I guess, but it's actually a giant field where there's all these people there for a UFO convention. They're waiting for the ships to land, and the aliens do land, and they talk to Sandy. And to your point, he's kind of like whining about the meaning of it all, and I'm just a filmmaker. They say, the aliens, and this is a refrain throughout the film, they say, "We enjoy your films, especially the earlier, funnier ones."
Yeah.
And then they say, "You're not the missionary type. You're not Superman. You want to help mankind? Tell funnier jokes."
Right.
Which is beautiful. And then the space aliens, they fly away in hot air balloons.
Or he interpreted the hot air balloons as space aliens. But the one of the beautiful things about this movie is the black and white cinematography, I believe, by Gordon Parks, right?
I missed it.
Yeah, I think the same person who shot. I think Gordon Parks shot Manhattan. Let's see, Stardust Memories cinematographer. I think is Gordon Parks. He was famous. Gordon Willis.
Okay.
He also did Manhattan.
Well, I was gonna say this I haven't watched Manhattan in a long time. And, aside from them both being black and white films, this feels very different to me from than Manhattan.
Yeah, different
May-
vibe.
Yeah, it just is like bolder and darker. I don't know if there's more contrasts, but we have a lot more close-ups. The one thing I want to come back to, I'm glad you mentioned that Vietnam photo. There is a surreal quality to it. Seems like all of the walls in Sandy's apartment
Mhm,
have these giant blow-ups of famous newspaper imagery.
mhm,
And I don't know if there's that many rooms in this place. It almost feels like every time we come back to a scene in his apartment, there's a different picture up. I don't know if they're meant to be the same room or different rooms. But going back to our earlier thing about the 14-year-old, this is something that I did note down because it happens right after that scene where she's accusing him.
mhm,
The headline on the newspaper that's blown up on the wall, you cannot miss it, and it has to be deliberate because this is art direction.
mhm.
The headline says incest between father and dot dot dot. We can't see the
Yeah,
rest of the headline. It's on the newspaper wall banner.
yeah, I saw that.
And that's one of the, again, we don't know. I'm not accusing anybody, but that is one of the accusations that has been leveled. So again, is this his id kind of like playing around saying, I got to get this out, but I can't confess because I don't want to end up in prison. I want to make movies.
I mean, like I said, it could have been something that he was accused of even back then, privately, and
Privately, possibly, yeah.
he decided to put it in the movie uh, because it's something shocking and significant that's going on in his life. Um, that line that filmmakers would, if they really did some crime, that they would be bold enough to put it on the screen to challenge people to catch them. That sounds to me like a little far fetched. Um, I think that's I think that's going too far. I think anyone who's actually guilty of something and feel bad about it, if they don't feel bad about it and they want to challenge society, there are much more direct ways to bring it out. And if if someone's being accused of that kind of a thing, and they made a movie about something that's the complete opposite, such as someone who's like a very good father, that would also be questioned, as in, is this person trying to whitewash their reputation? So I would think someone who's not guilty would take this path of, okay, let's bring in this thing that I'm accused of. Let's, in some way, talk about it in my movie, or make it clear enough that the conversation about the movie would bring this out. Um, it's difficult to tell, and I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly what's going on, and we haven't had too many cases like Polanski was found guilty of, I think, statutory rape, and I don't think his movies really dealt with that subject since
No.
then. So I think someone who actually did it probably would just leave it alone, unless they want to go out of their way to challenge society.
Well, but that gets into the psychology of, like, they say, like, serial killers, a lot of people who do these kind of outrageous things, they want to be caught,
Right,
but they don't want to go to the police station and say, take me in, like Kevin Spacey in Seven. It's a weird, again, kind of a almost like cry for help, or a dare, sort of like what you're kind of
but
talking about.
In Woody Allen's case, he had to deal with the police and the courts about the
But
things
this
that.
is much. But this is much later. I mean, we're still talking about, because the whole thing with even
Oh, right, right, right. But
Soon
later,
Yi was like a decade or more after
about a
this.
decade, yeah.
So when you're talking about, if this is something that is coming up in his private life, and he is writing what he knows in a lot of his films, maybe this is him starting to process this, or whatever. But it's just a weird detail to put in a film that is not explicitly about that,
Right, right.
right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't want people. If you haven't seen Stardust Memories, folks, I don't want you to get the impression that it's like
It's
this
a minor thing.
heavy thing, right? It's mostly, we're talking about the context that would come later, and
Yeah,
the weirdness
decades
of
later.
watching it back now. It's honestly a hilarious comedy, and the even the darkness, like the bit you mentioned uh with Charlotte Rampling's character with Dory.
Hmm.
It does feel a bit weird, because they do that whole thing where she's kind of repeating the same kind of line over and over again, but you almost get the feeling that it's just Woody Allen doing different takes of her, of
Right,
the actress, saying, "Hey, give me a different version of this, a different version of this," and unbeknownst to her, he's going to use it all in this weird kind of editing thing to show perhaps her mental breakdown. It does feel a bit strange, but it's not completely alien to the rest of the film,
right,
because interspersed with this mania, the hilarity of all these conflicts that Sandy's dealing with, is this kind of darkness, these unresolved issues from childhood, this idea that he keeps flashing back to his youth,
right.
which he seemed to be kind of a happy performer kid. He loved to do magic tricks. The first time we see him, he's a superhero. He's literally like Supermaning up into the sky, up and away.
That
But
scene, that scene with the girl pointing at young Sandy, but that was really funny and well done. That girl did a really good job.
yeah, it's all great. But there is this idea of kind of the loss of innocence. Like that kid, if you told him, "Hey, one day you're going to turn this penchant for magic and entertaining into being a Hollywood filmmaker," he probably would have loved it. But the reality of him growing up with whatever baggage he had, plus the reality of making movies and dealing with that Hollywood system and the press, he kind of lost whatever it was that compelled him to make art in the first place. And I think that's another thing that he's kind of wrestling with, along with these, relationship problems. So there's so much going on in this movie that, again, yeah, we could talk for another hour at least, I think, of diving into Sandy Bates.
Yeah, and to tie this to 53 spaceships. That's the level of reality I want, and we can talk as much time as you have about Stardust Memories because it's a good movie.
Not
Uh,
much, because I got to get to bed, but we will talk about 53 spaceships. So please go ahead.
so that is the level of reality I want, and the depiction of realism I want in the 53 Spaceships movie. These people are filmmakers, detectives, dealing with lots of other funny issues, but they're also talking about these 53 spaceships that the government found. So while they're talking about the spaceships, we may cut to some artist rendering, government artist rendering of one of the spaceships or the aliens. Then we'll come back into the conversation. So that'll be kind of a fluid, fast movie, but overall grounded in realism. That's kind of what I'm going for, and I think maybe that's why I thought of Stardust Memories. As far as Woody Allen movies go, it's one of the ones where it's both realistic, and funny without having sort of a detached, the camera's in a wide shot and people are performing like they're on a stage, without having that kind of a style. We have cuts, we have lots of different camera angles, we have camera movements, present, past, fantasy sequences, and also another reality that's shown is segments from the movie. Those are cut in seamlessly. It takes us a second to figure out, oh, we were just watching a clip from a movie.
The movie that he's making, right?
Right. I want that kind of a world in 53 Spaceships, except the artist renderings of spaceships may be marked as such, at least in the beginning of the movie, so that people don't have a hard time processing it, or it'll be mentioned and then I'll show it, and people will put the two together.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up the script. Hope to wrap it up this week, and then the camera I had to be returned.
Oh no.
Because it's not really good for nighttime. So there's another camera I want to get that I'm going to try to get this week, and we're going to start rehearsing and shooting. One thing I'm going to do, since I'll own the camera, is I'm going to shoot my segments like 10 times before actors and before set, before the filming days, and just to rehearse and really have it down, the way that Woody Allen's character, Woody Allen and the other actors have reality down in such a specific way that it feels extremely real, right? So I'd like to, get to that level of reality with my character and both characters, really.
Again, I can't wait.
It'd be fun.
One thing that when you mentioned the idea of in Stardust Memories, we see bits of the film that Sandy is making interspersed with reality,
or past
and right, so right, his past films, interspersed with the current reality, and also sometimes interspersed with the fantasy elements of his daydreams. The end of the film, it's very like kind of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where reality comes crashing into the end of the film, and the movie closes with the film festival finishing up essentially watching Stardust Memories and the cast leaving the theater.
Yeah, that was a very good ending.
Right, but here's another detail that I wrote down because I just thought it was so strange. Jessica Harper and the actress who played Isabel, they're leaving ostensibly as themselves.
Right.
And they're talking about what it was like to do those kissing scenes. Because as with a lot of Woody Allen movies and even his stand-up, he's like the nebbishy guy, but he gets these amazingly attractive women to do all sorts of crazy stuff with him. He's showering with Charlotte Rampling at one point and all that stuff. But at the end of this movie, the actresses playing themselves and not their characters talk about doing the kissing scenes with him, and they say, and he never lets you go. Just again, I don't know. He wrote that. It's you mentioned Inception earlier. Forget about the surrealism of the imagery or the story. If you just want to talk about Woody Allen Inception, he's writing a movie about actresses playing characters who will eventually come back to play themselves, talking about how creeped out they were by the guy who's writing and directing the movie, which is also him.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I thought it was like Inception. So one way to read the movie from that scene is everything we saw prior to that. The main story of the movie is a movie, and we're only seeing the real people in that last few minutes, and we never really get to see the real Woody Allen except in that last final shot when he's leaving.
He wanders in and he's standing in the empty theater. Yeah.
Yeah. So we saw clips from his other movies, clips from Stardust Memories movie, or whatever the title is that we were watching and that they were watching at the Stardust Theater. We saw memories of his childhood and fantasies and fears he has. Maybe some of the segments where he's talking directly to the camera are from the real world. So it's it's tied together really well, moves fast, and it's funny. I only in the rewatching, there was only like one spot where I thought, "Oh, this is getting slow," but rest of the movie felt really good as far as speed. It's not too rushed, and you get to you have time to digest what's happening.
And the thing that strikes me about it, that strikes me a lot about Woody Allen films, it's short. It's an hour and 24 minutes long,
Right,
but there's so much
a lot going on.
packed into that. Yeah, you can watch it just as an entertaining piece of fantasy or something deeper than that. Even just taking aside Woody Allen's personal issues, I mean, it says a lot about creativity and the modern world and commerce and all that. It's yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. Why do why do people not do, in your estimation, don't they talk about this movie? I don't know how well it did, how it was received, but it seems like it should be a standout on his filmography as much as any movie is on Woody Allen's filmography, considering he's been canceled. But is there a reason that this isn't like more? People talk about Manhattan and Annie Hall. Why not Stardust Memories?
Stardust Memories has a good reputation as a movie and as a Woody Allen movie, but a lot of people thought it was Woody Allen doing 8.5. So I think they prefer to focus on his original movies like Midnight in Paris, Annie Hall, Manhattan, where those were really well received and those were really well made. But Stardust Memories, I think, warrants a place up there with some of the best Woody Allen movies. And it's possible that not as many people saw it, and it wasn't as much of a commercial success. But I think it's really good. Another connection to everything else. Um, Another inspiration for 53 Spaceships is Slacker, which is Richard Linklater's first movie. Also, I like the speed and weirdness of Breathless. So Breathless is going to be factored into 53 Spaceships. Um, so it's going to be like a combination of the stuff we mentioned, plus Cosmic Disco Detective Renee, plus Breakthrough Weekend. But ultimately, we wanted to feel like some of the realistic stuff in Stardust Memories. But yeah, it'll be its own thing. But you'll see some of the things that contributed to the movie as far as sources of inspiration go.
So what you're saying is you're going to try and get into Cannes next year.
Oh, that will be good. That would be good. But even if it doesn't, it'll play at a better place, which is Film Noir Cinema in Greenpoint, Brooklyn,
All
later this
right,
year.
excellent. Well, yeah, best of luck on getting the new camera and everything set up. I'm sorry the other one didn't work out. You were really excited about that one.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a good camera for daytime stuff. But upon reviewing some of the recent nighttime stuff I shot, that camera, the images would not hold up well projected on a large screen, especially nighttime stuff. Also, that camera is a half-inch sensor. My previous movies were shot on 1-inch sensors, and that creates a big difference as far as sharpness and brightness. Also, I'm using stock footage that is shot on 4K, so I don't want there to be a huge, giant discrepancy between, when we cut to stock footage versus original footage. I mean, it won't really matter. The stock footage will be transitional segments, but I like to, I like to have it not feel like 8 millimeter versus 70 millimeter.
Right. Well, and these are the kinds of things you have to really think about, when putting a movie together,
Yeah,
down to having to trade in a camera.
and that's
And
the camera that you liked. But yeah, I need a 1-inch sensor camera, one that's good at nighttime.
all right. Well, definitely keep us posted. I'm sure you'll have another update in a couple of weeks when again we're going to be back here talking with our friend Raphael and getting the inside skinny on Cannes
Mhm.
and friendship and all that good stuff. So, Sujewa, thank you very much for recommending that we talk about Stardust Memories and also the Cannes Film Festival. This has been one of our, I guess, widest ranging and robust conversations we've had, and I'm all here for it, man. Thank you.
and the subjects are related. The different movies are related. And next, yeah, like you said, the next episode will be on Raphael Sporge and Friendship movie, and maybe the one after that in July probably will be about 53 spaceships. I hope to get it done by July 1st or so. So no more podcast episodes anywhere for me after Friendship until the movie is done.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hold you to that. I want to see this movie.
Awesome.
But all right, man. Well, Sujewa, thank you again. All your information is down below. People can definitely go check him out in his various platforms and support 53 Spaceships. Look out for 53 Spaceships. They're coming soon to a city near you.
And fundraiser coming soon also.
Excellent. And yeah, we'll have information on that. If you're watching this in the future, check down below because there may actually be a link to that fundraiser because I'm going to put it up when it goes live. But anyway, thanks. This has been IndieSeen. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and all that good business. Ring the bell for notifications. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thanks very much and take care. Hey everyone, Ian here. I know, long time no see. But if you like the video you just watched, feel free to subscribe to Kicking the Seat right here, and also check out the playlist and recommended video right here. Thanks for watching.